we analyzed the reflective diaries of college students studying special education. As you probably all know, reflection is thought to be an effective tool in teacher training programs and is considered a critical process in construction of teacher professional identity. Through reflection, student teachers observe and evaluate their experiences and thoughts and conceptualize them in order to increase awareness of their feelings, beliefs, and assumptions, and to discern an analytic viewpoint of their experiences. So it seems as a suitable method for examining their professional development. We had one main goal in this study. We aimed at examining the professional development of pre-service special education teachers as expressed in their reflective diaries over their final year of study. We had two main research questions. First of all, what were the themes that occupied pre-service special education teachers during their final year of study? And the second research question was, did the themes change and develop during this year, and were there differences or variations by training program? Our participants were 19 female undergraduate college students aged 23 to 41, 10 from a teacher training college, and 9 from a university in Central Israel. Well, actually, they were part of a larger study that included 84 participants, and we randomly chose 10 participants from each institution. However, from the university, among the university students, one reflection was incomplete, so we had to remove it from the analysis. All of the participants were pre-service special education teachers in their final year of study who participated in practicum during this year. The differences between the programs were mainly that the university students participate in a more theoretical program focusing on academic knowledge and research and less on practical experience. The teacher training college students participated in a more practical program, which integrates field experience beginning from the first year of study. We used two measures, a background questionnaire, which included data regarding gender, age, religion, family status, employment status, family status, employment status, and details concerning participants' studies and their current field of experience. And we also used a reflective diary, as I previously stated, written once a month, which required participants to describe an event they have experienced or observed during a day in their practicum, which included the following data. The date that the event occurred, a short description of the event, and a reflection concerning the event, including thoughts, feelings, and insights concerning the event. Data were collected twice, at the beginning of the academic year and towards the end of it. Each time, participants were asked to complete the background questionnaire and to hand in their reflection that was written at that time. In order to promise anonymity, but also to be able to match between the data collected at the beginning and towards the end of the academic year, the participants were asked to write the 4 last digits of their ID on their questionnaires. The reflections were then analyzed using thematic analysis guidelines outlined by Brown and Clark. So as you can see, in relation to the first research questions, what were the themes that occupied the college students, we found two main themes, professional activities and interpersonal relationships. The professional activities included 2 categories, teaching and organization-related procedures. The teaching category also included 4 subcategories. As you can see, planning, execution, instruction-related feelings, self-perception, and evaluation. The interpersonal relationships theme included 4 categories, teacher-student relationships, between students relationships, and college student field mentor relationships. Here are some examples for the subcategories of teaching. I don't think I have a lot of time, so I'll proceed. In relation to the second research theme that we wanted to examine the general changes over time and changes in relation to training program. In relation to the first theme, professional activities, general changes were that planning and carrying out lessons were slightly more common towards the end of the academic year among both study groups, and participants' self-perceptions and evaluations were more positive towards the end of the year. In relation to training program, whereas the teacher training college students mentions feeling regarding instruction only at the beginning of the year, the university students focused on their feelings both at the beginning as well as at the end of their practicum. Organization-related procedures were mentioned mostly by teacher training college students, both at the beginning and at the end of the academic year. In relation to the second theme, personal relationships, general changes were that almost half of the participants wrote about the relationships between pupils, mostly at the beginning of the academic year. A similar proportion addressed their relationships with their field mentors. In relation to training program, all the teacher training students wrote about relationships with their field mentors at the beginning of the year, while most of the university students who mentioned this aspect addressed it only towards the end of the academic year. So what can we understand from all these results? First of all, examination of participants' reflected diaries emphasized their professional development in relation to two main aspects, professional activities and personal or interpersonal relationships. Towards the end of the academic year, participants were more occupied with practical aspects such as planning or lesson execution than with their emotions and self-perceptions. However, this was more evident among the teacher training college participants than the university ones. The study's findings suggest previous studies supports previous studies on pre-service special education teachers' professional development, which used other measures such as questionnaires as we used in our previous study. And thus strengthened the claim that reflections is a suitable measure for examining pre-service teachers' professional development. Thank you very much.
We can't hear you.
Ah, sorry, was I muted?
Yeah.
I said lots of interesting things there. Well, thank you very much, Rinat. That was very interesting. Save your questions, please, to the last 10 minutes. And we're moving on to Sharon Hirsch from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Over to you.
Okay. They had asked me if they wanted to post my presentation. Am I supposed to post it myself, or will he put up the PowerPoint?
What would you prefer? Would you prefer me to do it, or you want to share it on your own?
I can do it. Well, I'll let you do it. Why don't you put it up?
All right, just a second, please.
Neck down a little farther. Right.
Just a second.
Okay.
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 You can start speaking.
Hey. I'm looking for my presentation here. Okay, I don't see it. If you want to get it up, that would be helpful. I don't see it.
Can you see it on the main screen?
I see it here, but it's not going up.
In your computer?
On my computer, is it? Let's see, share screen. Do you want to continue? Yes. 1 minute. Sorry. I have it here, but you can't put it on the shared screen for me?
Okay, just a second. I'll try it one more time.
Okay.
Can you see it now?
I still don't see it. Just 1 minute. I'm going to try to do it myself. Sorry. Do you
Can
want
you
to
see what it
continue?
says on chat? It says choose PowerPoint when sharing.
Let's see. Because I can see that we are sharing the screen right now. That's what I see.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, just 1
You
minute.
can see
Whole
it.
screen.
Sarah, can you
no.
see the screen, the therapeutic effects of expressive writing?
No,
All right.
No.
no. Are you sharing PowerPoint and whole screen?
Yeah, now I see this, but now I can't get it back into the, all right. Can do it without the PowerPoint, but that's unfortunate.
Ah, there. Now we can see it.
Yes, you can see it.
Now I
Okay.
can't see
Yeah,
anything
no,
else.
no.
Okay, let's,
You can see it now, Sarah?
Yes.
All right,
we
so
can see
let's
therapeutic
continue.
effects of expressive writing.
okay.
Yes, exactly.
Something happened right now with my having a technical problem here, which I haven't had the whole morning, and I can't move the screen at all.
Only
so,
I can move the screen. If you want me
okay.
to move a page
to
down,
get into
just
the presentation mode.
just say page down, and I'll take it down one presentation.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
Okay, so please start.
Okay. So, 1 minute. Okay, I'm here now. I'm okay now.
We're all with you.
Yeah, okay, great. For many years, I've actually worked in the area of theoretical, editorial, and pedagogical aspects of academic writing in postgraduate settings and the writing of scholars. Recently, I've begun to investigate another area of writing, a more personal aspect of writing, expressive or reflective writing. How does what we write actually change us? I can't move the screen to the next
Page up.
page.
Barak, there we are.
Okay. Expressive writing has been defined as writing about traumatic emotional experiences in order to explore deep emotions and thoughts. I have no control over the screen here. Okay. The focus of the talk. What are the benefits of expressive writing? How long do these benefits last? Can expressive writing prior to a stressful event be beneficial? Does instruction in narrative writing prior to the stressful event affect the results? Might any writing, regardless of the personal content, result in greater peace of mind, cognitive function, or improved health? A study was done in 2005. I'm sorry, I'm going to start to go back again. The original study by Professor of Psychology James Pennebaker assigned healthy undergraduates to one of 4 groups. 3 groups were asked to write about traumatic life events for 15 minutes over a period of 4 consecutive days, while the 4th group wrote about trivial topics for the same amount of time. The researchers tracked the undergraduates' participant visits to university health centers over the next 6 months and found that those in the expressive writing group had fewer visits to the clinics, the health clinics, and to the counseling center during that period of time. Over a period of about 20 years, this study has been replicated many times And it's been replicated in the United States, Mexico, Belgium, other countries in Europe, and in Israel. And the results have shown that there's a positive correlation between brief experiences of writing about traumatic or painful experiences and subsequent improvements in many aspects of health, such as immune function, reduction of pain, etc. I'd like to move. I wanted to, these were the instructions basically given to the students originally, which have been duplicated several times. Write about the most traumatic experience of your life or something very emotional. Explore your deepest emotions and thoughts, and write about the same general issues or experiences on all days or about different topics each day. I'd like to move on again, please. Okay. What are some of the beneficial effects of expressive writing have had? Okay, the first study I'd like to take a look at is that was done by Blake and Wilhelm. And they found that although the original study was done with healthy undergraduates, they looked at students who were participating in a psychiatric clinic on campus. And they found that during a period of time, Graf, Brandon, and Geller, during this period of time, those who participated in the expressive writing group had fewer depressive symptoms than others and were more successful in their psychotherapy than people who were in the control group. And that's the second study mentioned here, carried out by Guidron, was done in Israel with a very different population of people, adults who were frequent visitors to outpatient health clinics. And their goal was to reduce the number of visits that these patients had and to help them cope better on their own. They found that when they divided the participants into two groups, that those in the expressive writing group had fewer visits during that period of time to the outpatient health clinics. And I think that was an interesting study that was not done with students. Blake and Wilhelm did a study where they were looking at chronic pain clinics, people who participated in chronic pain, and they found that participants in this study with asthma, rheumatoid arthritis, and other problems showed improvements in lung function and in physician-rated disease severity, respectively. They had several other suggestions for further studies that would be carried on with patients post-operative, et cetera, women with chronic pains related to various problems, et cetera. A 2013 study on the effects of expressive writing on patients with major depressive disorder had similar results to that of the students in the psychiatric clinic carried out a few years earlier. And they found that participants who had major depressive disorder improved significantly after participating in the expressive writing group without regard to the actual number, the actual intensity of the depression that they the next study that's mentioned here was actually carried out with a younger population of young adolescents who had been exposed to violence in their home or community environment. And they used expressive writing as one of the methods of treatment. We found that the students who had been exposed to violent and aggressive home and community environments were much less aggressive in their behavior after they participated in this study, as judged by their teachers and guidance counselors in the actual school setting. And the following study that I wanted to share with you was one by Schaffer, done in 2019, with a population of physicians who were exposed to a fictitious narrative about a pregnant woman who smoked during her pregnancy. And the goal of the study was to modify the attitude of physicians towards patients whose behavior may not be what they believed it should be. And they found that after asking the physicians to write about this patient, that they were much more likely to attribute external rather than internal causes for her behavior. And the study increased the empathy and positive attitudes towards the patient and towards patients in the future over a period of time. The next study looked at what the mechanism is involved. What is it about expressive writing that changes us or changes those exposed to it? A study of breast cancer survivors, early and middle, early stage and stage 1 and stage 2 breast cancer survivors, they found that not so much the cognitive processing or discovery of meaning, but they found that the improvements in health were related to self-affirmation. I'd like to change to the next slide. The mechanisms involved have been mentioned in a number of the studies: facilitation of reorganization and restructuring of traumatic memories, enabling confrontation of previously inhibited emotions. I'm going to skip down to the end of this: desensitization of stressors and concomitant negative emotions, etc. Bringing greater insight into previously unexamined events. The truth is that nobody knows for sure how this expressive writing actually works, but we do know that it does work. And I'm going to continue to the next slide to show you a few studies that were somewhat different than these that were successful in as well. Burton and King, their 2002 study was somewhat different in that they looked at not traumatic or deeply disturbing emotional experiences, but intensely positive experiences.
Half a minute left, Sharon.
Okay, so the following two studies looked at students before high anxiety exams, and they found that there was a significant improvement in the grades. The first study mentioned here was dealt with students in high school and junior high school, and the second one, students who were highly anxious before the MCAT medical school and law school entrance exams. I just want in the last
Sorry.
the last slide, if you have it there. Yeah, that perhaps it's not writing about emotional topics at all, but the process of writing itself that actually changes us. Whether we complete a sentence or a paragraph that was very difficult, a successful grant operation, or many other aspects of successful writing that may actually contribute to our emotional success. Just a few lines on the last page. The last page of the...
Right, the very, very last.
Yeah. Expressive writing has numerous health and emotional benefits. There's no certainty for us regarding the actual mechanism. Narrative writing instruction appears not to have a major effect on what happens. Writing prior to a high-stakes exam may also reduce our anxiety and increase grades. The writing process itself, regardless of the topic, may result in positive or negative emotional states, and teachers should probably be much more aware of the effects of all types of writing on their students.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Very interesting. Very potent for this time too, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Right, so another 10 minutes of speaking from Dr. Raya Haik, Sakhnin College. And then please keep your questions for the final 10 minutes. Over to you.
Okay, thank you for choosing to attend this session. In this session, I'll share with you how I created spaces in my English college classroom for personalized writing. As part of a project funded by the EU and the Erasmus Plus project, a project called DEMO, Developing Modernized Curricula on Immigrants' Lives in Israel, we, the staff of Sachin College, Dr. Yasser, Lina, Amal, and me, were supposed to develop courses on lives of immigrants. But since our students come from indigenous families, all Israeli Arab students, we adapted our course to address minority challenges and family history of displacement. So in this session, I will focus on my course at the English department, a course called Migration and Minorities in Children's Literature. It was taught last year as in a face-to-face mode, and this year in a blended mode, both face-to-face and online. The course connects children's literature and academic readings on migration with students' challenges as a minority in Israel. The students respond to the stories using reader-response strategies that combine arts, narrative, interviewing, photography, and connections to self and community. They reflect on the issues of marginalization, identity, privilege, group memory, and aspirations for a better life. And in this link, you have a link to the whole project. You can familiarize yourself with the project. In this session, I will share with you a few snapshots from my course. The first is providing spaces for students to reflect on their names and the challenges they face when Hebrew-speaking residents of the country mispronounce their Arabic names. I used two stories for that. The name Jar, a story about a Korean girl who migrated to America, and My Name is Sangol, about a Sudanese boy who fled to America too. Both face similar problems of the majority mispronouncing their names. Students were invited to reflect on both stories through writing their name stories. My name story, as you see on the right side of the page.
Raya, we don't see your screen. I think I realize now that you probably I think that you're sharing a screen with us and we can't see anything.
Oh. Okay, just a minute.
We thought that maybe you just want to speak freely without.
No, I thought I did that from the beginning. So.
Now we've got you.
Okay.
Okay, so just full screen.
Yeah. So.
That's it.
This is the cover page. This is the course description. And now this is the first example of two stories on what's in a name stories. And then I invited students to reflect on their name stories on the left side, on the right side, my name story. On the left side, I Am poem, where they put themselves in the shoes of the main character and reflect on how her feelings, her thoughts, etc. Another method used in the course was arts. So, for example, using a story called Stepping Stones, a refugee family's journey, a story about a refugee family from the Middle East, the journey of a refugee family from the Middle East to a safe haven in Europe, I invited students to reflect on their own life journeys. And they could do that with narratives, but also using drawings, words, ideas, symbols, shapes, and colors. And this is a part of the graffiti wall they created on their life journeys. And this is a close shot of one of the drawings that one of the students drew, reflecting on things she wants to achieve in life, represented in the flower over her head, and things inside her head which are restrictions that prevent her or has prevented, or things that have prevented her throughout her life from achieving her goals, like women persecution, racism, fears, pressure, frustration, etc. They also reflected, not only used arts, but also reflected on that in writing, narrative writing, expressive writing. If we build on the previous session, expressive writing that could be therapeutic in a way. So you can read what she wrote later in the PowerPoint. Due to time constraints, I won't be able to read this with you, but you can read it on your own. Students also produced oral texts. So they presented at the end of the course. We arranged a presentation day attended by audience, both from the college and from outside the college, including media. And students presented all that, or the reflections on the books. They presented them to the audience. This is a photo of one of the students presenting about her life journey. Another venue for expression was expressing about feeling in between. We know that people with a history of migration, marginalization, sometimes live in different worlds and face challenges of finding their own way around the dominant culture, while at the same time maintaining their own cultural values and traditions. So they sometimes feel themselves in between. And I created spaces in my course for students to reflect on inner and social conflicts and emotional challenges. To scaffold that, I used two stories. Azi in Between, a story about a refugee from the Middle East to Europe who also felt in between the two cultures, his main home culture and the hosting culture. And Crowboy, a story about a Japanese boy who lives in the periphery. He's from a poor family from a rural area, and he finds himself also disadvantaged. So students reflected in that, both using writing and arts. This is one example of a student who feels in between childhood and adulthood, in between thinking with her heart and thinking with her mind. This is a piece she wrote and drew. Another venue was using photography to describe how they feel in between, what challenges they have in life. So the Photo Voice tool is a research method where participants use photography. They take photos of concerning issues, they elaborate on them in writing, and then they present their photos and voices, the written accounts, to an audience hoping for change. So students reflected on what they want to change in society, what bothers them in society through Photo Voice. And this is one example of a student that was annoyed with gossip. The last venue for expression was narrative interviewing. For doing that, we read the story Haifa and the Seagull, a story about a girl her family is originally from Haifa. They migrated, they were deported to a refugee camp in Lebanon, and her grandpa tells her stories of the town of Haifa. And I asked them whether they know someone who was displaced, and they reflected on that many of them had relatives who were displaced, so they could go and interview them or interview an immigrant person if they couldn't find a displaced person. In these two links, you have two interviews that this student, Diana, conducted with two people. The first is with someone called Ferial Joachim. She's originally from a Palestinian who migrated, who was deported to Lebanon, then Syria, then Australia. And she interviewed her in English. And she told an amazing, inspiring story, how she could overcome all the difficulties. The other one is with a professor from the college who is an American Jew who immigrated to Israel in the 70s. And she compares both experiences in her narrative here that, again, you can read later due to time constraints, but she reflects here in this piece on she compares and contrasts the two experiences of both Ferial and Bill. And she reflects on them. Another example was Ala, who interviewed her grandpa, who was originally from the village of Mjaidel near Nazareth, also who was deported and who lives now in Nazareth. But what she takes from this is that his optimism, she was amazed by his optimism. He did not give up. That's what I learned from his struggle. We cannot surrender at the first obstacle or the second, not even the 10th, as she says.
You're coming to the end of your time, please.
Yeah, and I'm done. So as you can see, this course provided a safe haven for students to address issues pertinent to their life through writing, arts, photography, and other means of expression. And I hope I've inspired you to do the same, because students' voices are invaluable and should be included in academia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raya. One more thing, we didn't see you. I'm not sure you realized that your camera is not.
Yeah, I don't have a camera on this
Okay.
PC, so you have my picture, right?
Yes, that's a very nice picture. Thank you.
Yeah. Wishful. We wish we could visit other countries again.
Okay, we have very, very little time for questions, only 2 minutes. So thank you, first of all, three of you. And over to our audience, are there any questions you'd like to put forth? Dr. Maha Al-Wadat, would you like to say that? Have you got a microphone?
We have here also Dr. Yasser and Dr. Lina, who were part of the project. So also
Right.
they can, at Sachin College, so they can maybe contribute.
That's right.
Okay, so Barak, would you like to remember to unmute yourselves before you speak, because you're all muted.
So
Yes, Dr. Maha.
I had a question in the chat asking, first of all, it was interesting study. I'm more concerned about using autoethnographic, especially with writing poetry, to examine students' feelings, attitudes, even and identity, and using poetic inquiry as a method. Also, she mentioned the storytelling, and this is like a good method for expressive writing. So what about storytelling in the digital era now, especially during the COVID-19? So there will be amazing stories through poetry and also through storytelling. So this is what I have to say.
Raya, would you like to respond to that?
Good to see you, Maha, first. Yes, this is a very valid, especially now at the COVID-19 era, video and all the electronic resources could be, can be invaluable for in our classrooms. And students also posted a lot of Facebook videos on their interviews, and they posted the YouTube clips. So they utilize this tool, but this can be utilized even further.
Okay, it's 12:15. I'm afraid we're going to have to finish here. Thank you very much. Food for thought and for writing. And see you in our next session. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.